The Amityville House, located on Long Island, New York, is perhaps the most famous haunted residence in the world. More than just a house, it represents the fusion of a real-life tragedy and supernatural legend, a combination that set imaginations ablaze and cemented its status as a modern horror icon. The story of this house is an invitation to understand how human events can evolve into narratives that span decades, influencing books, films, and popular culture as a whole. But before we dive into the supernatural accounts, it's essential to know the tragedy that defined the place, because, as every great story shows, the past is the key to understanding the present. The house sits at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, a quiet, quintessential little Long Island town known for its tranquil neighborhoods and traditional families. The building, a colonial-style two-story, looked like the ideal home for any 1970s American family. Simple facade, modest yard, large windows, letting in plenty of natural light. From the outside, nothing hinted at the horrors to come. It was the kind of house you'd be proud to show off to neighbors. Yet, as with many ordinary places that hide secrets, 112 Ocean Avenue carried a heavy atmosphere, a shadow only insiders could really feel. Amityville in the 70s was your typical American small town. Peaceful vibe, tight-knit communities, wooden houses, leafy streets, and routines revolving around the local school, small shops, and community events. Nothing too different from the American dream people sought, a safe place to raise kids and build a stable life. But that calm was shattered by the massacre at Ocean Avenue. Something so brutal happening in such a serene setting stunned not only locals, but the entire nation. Before that, Amityville was just another dot on the map. Afterward, it became synonymous with mystery and fear. The town that should have been a haven of peace turned into the perfect stage for a chilling legend. The DeFeo family was like many typical American families. Ronald DeFeo Sr., wife Louise, and 5 children, Ronald Jr., Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John Matthew, had lived in that house for years, living a relatively ordinary life. Ronald Jr., the eldest, was known for being quiet and struggling with alcohol, but nothing that would tip anyone off to what was coming. Their routines included work, school, and everyday rhythms. Openly, though, tensions and hidden conflicts simmered behind those walls, shadows that would culminate in one of the most shocking local crimes. Ronald DeFeo Jr., aged 23, had a troubled history, reserved, aggressive, alcohol issues, especially friction with his father. Yet no one expected what would happen next. He became the center of a macabre tragedy, responsible for the brutal murder of his parents and 4 siblings in one horrifying night, forever sealing the house's fate in Amityville. His mysterious, contradictory persona continues to fuel debates. Was it personal turmoil, mental illness, or something more sinister? On the fateful night of November 13, 1974, the unimaginable unfolded inside the Ocean Avenue house. Ronald Jr. used a rifle to kill his family in their sleep, precision shots for each member. The crime stunned neighbors, and when police arrived, they found a silent house filled with horror, everyone dead, victims of calculated violence. This massacre marked a turning point, transforming the house from a simple residence into a stage for an unforgettable crime, and the opening act of the legend that would follow. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Ronald Jr. was arrested the next day and confessed, claiming he had heard voices telling him to kill his family, a detail that soon fueled supernatural theories. Investigators found clear evidence tying him to the killings, the rifle, the ballistics, and his own confession. In the 1975 trial, his defense argued insanity, but the jury saw otherwise. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The verdict closed the legal chapter, but not the mystery. Ronald Jr. remained infamous as the young man who destroyed his family and the house, stained forever by violence. The massacre didn't just shake the house, it rattled all of Amityville. Neighbors were terrified, and extreme horror in such a peaceful, friendly place seemed impossible. News spread fast, casting a shadow of fear and suspicion. People avoided Ocean Avenue, and the house became a dark symbol no one wanted to approach. What had been a secure, hopeful community was now forever linked to terror, and that set the stage for supernatural legend. About a year later, in December 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathleen, and their 3 teens, bought the Ocean Avenue house. They were seeking a fresh start. The price was below market, likely due to the house's notorious reputation. Full of hope and excitement, they didn't anticipate that this choice would make them central figures in one of the greatest modern paranormal mysteries. George, a businessman, Kathleen, homemaker, and their kids Daniel, Christopher, and Missy moved in expecting a dream American life. Yet, within days, something felt off. The house's atmosphere was heavy, like nothing they'd experienced before. Strange smells, the constant feeling of being watched, unexplained noises. They tried rationalizing them, but this was just the calm before the storm. Soon, things escalated. Kathleen heard whispered voices in her ear. George felt an invisible presence following him. The kids saw objects move, felt dread, experienced terror in their own rooms. The energy in the house shifted, fear and confusion crept in deep. These early signs were unsettling, but still could be dismissed. Unfortunately, it was only the beginning of an incomprehensible nightmare. As the days went on, paranormal phenomena intensified. Voices echoing through walls, footsteps in the attic, doors slamming. Something unseen tracking George. Kathleen waking to cold sensations and shadows at the edge of her vision. These events heightened tension in every room, an oppressive force that refused to relent. They even reported visual apparitions, shadowy figures gliding through halls, translucent shapes vanishing when looked at. Kathleen claimed she saw a tall man with glowing red eyes. The children reported floating forms emerging from walls. The house seemed possessed by something evil, as if the horrors of its past were manifesting. Anew, it was terrifying and horrifyingly real. The physical manifestations ramped up too, moving furniture, doors banging, books falling off shelves, a table trembling violently in the night. At times they felt icy touches on their skin, like invisible hands trying to communicate or terrorize. These physical disruptions eroded their sense of normalcy, undermining their strength to endure. Their mental health deteriorated under the weight of fear, constant dread, sleepless nights, paranoia. It took a toll. Kathleen suffered panic episodes and despair. George, usually calm, became irritable and exhausted. The children had recurring nightmares. The oppressive atmosphere chewed away at their resilience. They began to question whether they could ever find peace in that house. When the Lutz's story became public, the community polarized. Some neighbors avoided them or the house altogether. Others thought they were seeking attention. Media frenzy followed, with sensational headlines blending terror and fascination. Ghost hunters, reporters, and mystics descended on Amityville, drawn by the promise of paranormal evidence. The intense exposure only amplified the home's notoriety, turning it into a supernatural legend while raising doubts and suspicion around the family's narrative. After just 28 days, the Lutz family fled, leaving behind furniture, clothes, documents, as if abandoning their lives made sense. Their abrupt escape became a powerful symbol of the Amityville myth. Sometimes, the evil is too strong to confront. You flee, or you're lost. Paranormal investigators and ghost hunters next took stage, reporting dense, heavy energy, strange temperature drops, unexplained sounds, shadow figures, and electronic readings. These accounts propelled the house's reputation as one of America's most haunted places. Skeptics challenged many of these claims, citing possible fabrication and exaggeration. But that controversy only added to the enigma. In 1977, Jay Anson's book, The Amityville Horror, hit shelves based on the Lutz's account of their 28-day ordeal. With vivid details of alleged paranormal activity, it became a bestseller, mixing real horror with supernatural myth. The book sparked public debate over truth and storytelling, but was instrumental in establishing the house as a horror archetype. Hollywood soon followed. The first film adaptation premiered in 1979, bringing Amityville terror to the big screen. Its visuals, eerie score, and chilling scenes etched the house into cinematic horror lore. A full franchise followed, movies, documentaries, series, embedding the house into global pop culture, games, TV, media. What was once a tragedy moved from local crime to mythic landmark. Still, controversy never let up. Critics questioned the Lutz's credibility, inconsistencies in accounts, and potential for profit motives behind the book and films. Researchers scrutinized documents and found anomalies. Whether truth or tall tale, the power of the narrative didn't fade. If anything, the ambiguity fed it. Amityville transcended its own dark past to become a cultural phenomenon. It influenced countless haunted house stories, real and fictional, using the same formula: family tragedy followed by supernatural reports. Amityville became both myth and template for horror narratives worldwide. Over the years, new owners renovated the house, repainted, remodeled, trying to break the curse of legend. But the name Amityville persisted. People still visit, offering unofficial tours, taking photos, seeking a brush with the creepy legacy. Even today, the house stands as a symbol of how real horror and myth can converge, its gravity impossible to erase. The story of the Amityville House teaches powerful lessons: how real tragedy can morph into myth, how fear can be both explanatory and exploitative, and how narratives, true or invented, shape our culture. It reminds us that behind every myth lies a human core of pain, hope, and survival. Amityville is more than just a haunted house. It's a mirror of our fascination with terror, tradition, and transformation. What began as a brutal crime became a legend that spans generations, challenging the boundary between reality and the supernatural. Amityville symbolizes how the past can haunt the present, and how some stories never die.